now the Bus Modernization Program Director Scott Hamway and Director of Vehicle Engineering Bill Wolfgang are here to present a contract for battery electric bus procurement.
Thank you, Chairman, Secretary, members of the board. My name is Scott Hamway, and I just wanted to take a moment to introduce Bill Wolfgang, who's our Director of Vehicle Engineering. He's going to do the second half of the presentation. Also joined by Chris Brennan, who's our Chief of Capital Delivery, and Alexander Markevich, who's the Deputy Director of the Bus Facility Modernization Program. Okay. So the battery electric bus transition that we are undertaking here at the MBTA, we've decided to do that using a facility-based strategy that'll minimize the impacts on our workforce and our riders. So we wanted to introduce the board to our 9 bus facilities, which you see up on the screen here, along with their current capacities. You'll note the North Cambridge facility is grayed out. That one's currently not in use as we retrofit it. Our facilities are quite old, as you can see from the timeline here, with our oldest being over a century. It was originally a streetcar barn, opened in 1904. That's our Quincy facility, which is one of our first projects, as you've heard. And then even our newest facility, which is only 20 years old, that was actually built as a temporary facility to have a 5-year lifespan. It's already well in excess of that. So as you can imagine, when you have facilities that old, it's difficult to keep them in a state of good repair. A lot of our facilities have conditions that frankly make it challenging for our maintenance workforce to keep the buses reliable and on the street, and it's really obviously important that we do that given how critical our bus service is to our bus customers. Some facilities, the image in the top center there of the bus, our Quincy facility is actually so old where the vertical clearances in it do not allow us to accommodate anything other than our oldest and dirtiest diesel buses. We have to work on those sometimes by jacking up kind of one end at a time, given the limitations of that facility. So there's obviously challenges with state of good repair, and obviously given the age of these facilities, none of them are designed to accommodate the amount of electrical capacity that we need to support battery electric bus fleets. So we're moving forward with this program. Part of that is because last year the Commonwealth enacted the climate law that requires us to be fully electric by 2040 and to no longer purchase fossil fuel burning buses after the year 2029. So we're moving forward on that timeline, but it's obviously also the right thing for us to be doing. This is a big part of us reducing the T's transportation emissions, and it also will help this bus service, which runs in very dense communities, often low-income communities, help us have better air quality in those corridors. So in order to meet that timeline, we obviously need to move very aggressively. So we are moving forward with designing facilities and trying to get them funded so we can deliver these on an every 2 to 3 year basis. But it's really critical, again, I want to emphasize, given the importance of our bus service to some of our customers who rely on transit the most, it's really critical that we manage this transition in a way that our workforce and our customers aren't burdened by it. So that means that there will be situations where, in order to continue to procure regular annual procurement of 100 or so buses to keep our fleet age down, we may need to buy hybrids in some of these early years instead of electric when our facility capacity isn't there to allow us to meet electric to procure electric buses in that particular year. The way we've kind of prioritized these first facilities in the program, North Cambridge, our smallest facility, that was an electric trolley bus facility. Those vehicles were reaching the end of their useful life, and there was also a 6.5-year construction project out in Watertown in Cambridge that was going to require us to pull them out of service anyway. So it seemed like the logical time to kind of update that facility, retrofit it so that it would be in line with the rest of our electric bus strategy. Quincy, as I showed you earlier, that facility is just obsolete, and until we can retire it, we're going to be running our oldest and dirtiest diesel buses there. So we moved to acquire a new site and work with the city of Quincy and have our first all-indoor modern bus facility coming there. So that'll be a big win down there for our workforce and our riders. And then Arbor Way kind of checks all the boxes for us. As I mentioned, it's a temporary facility. We've got a lot of trailers out there, It's already 15 years beyond what we had anticipated operating it. It's also a location where we can only operate compressed natural gas buses, so and those buses are set to be retired at the end of this decade. So unless we get an electric facility in place there by the end of the decade, our only option to kind of keep that service running would be with CNG buses. And that facility, more so than North Cambridge and Quincy, that's one of our highest ridership facilities in terms of the number of customers that use those buses. It also serves a higher percentage of low-income riders than almost all of our other bus facilities. So it's a really great place for us to kind of move next. And we'll if the board is interested, we're certainly happy to come back and do a deeper dive on the facility side of this. But today we're really just trying to set the table for the bus procurement. These are some of the accomplishments. We've advanced design or started conceptual design on 4 facilities. We've acquired some critical real estate both for Quincy but also to expand our ability to acquire a larger 60-foot articulated bus fleet, which helps us meet demand on some of our more crowded routes. And we've had some success leveraging federal dollars, which Bill will talk a little bit more in his part of the presentation. Just where we are on those first 2 facilities in the program. North Cambridge, which I mentioned, is a retrofit. That facility is going to be advertised for construction next month in August, so we're really excited about that. The project is delayed compared to what we initially had as a timeline, and that's really being driven by the sort of long lead times for some of the electrical equipment. So there's been a lot of changes in the construction market since we started the program, and items that might have taken 10 to 12 months to procure a couple years ago are now looking like closer to 2 years. That's delayed us, but we're on target for a fall 25 delivery of that facility. And then in Quincy, we had gone out to bid last year. Those bids came in significantly higher than our expectations, again, with the market changing rapidly. So we've kind of regrouped and taken a construction manager risk approach, which is not an approach that the T has used a lot recently, but it's already really started to pay dividends and help us get this project back on track. We're shortlisting subcontractors this week, and Chris's team from Capital Delivery will be back in front of you in the fall to set the GMP for that facility, and we're looking at a fall 26 completion date there. So, in terms of the challenges that we've run into, I've mentioned construction costs. It has been a really challenging environment for us to advance these projects. But we are back on track. I think pivoting to the CM at risk approach has been a big part of that. It's really helped us identify scope modifications. And there's also other things we've done. Alexandra had helped, and Bill had helped lead a trip down to New York City where we checked out MTA's Mother Clara Hale facility in Harlem, and we identified some other opportunities to kind of shrink the footprint of our facilities and reduce costs. Another issue that we've been really focused on is fire suppression at these facilities. There had been a couple high-profile battery electric bus fires in the news, and although our research and working with the American Public Transportation Association suggests that the rate of these fires is not meaningfully different than the rate of fires with diesel buses, the nature of those fires really pushed us to look for every opportunity we could to kind of manage that risk. What we have learned is that these fires are really the result of either manufacturing defects or damage, a bus hit something out in the field, or improper charging. And we were kind of in a position, because this is sort of early in this transition for the industry, the building code hasn't really caught up, so we don't really have as clear guidance in the building code in terms of how to design these facilities. So we've done a lot of work partnering with the state building inspector and local fire departments to come up with a solution that everybody is now on board with as we go forward. And our approach has really had kind of 3 different layers to it. Alexandra, as well as the project managers on Chris's team, have worked to develop enhanced fire modeling to kind of help us understand and make sure we've got the right amount of fire suppression systems in these facilities to manage an event if one should happen. Bill will talk a little bit about some of the on-vehicle features that he's built into his vehicle spec to make sure that we're getting information off the buses as soon as there could be a problem. And then lastly, we're also developing charge management systems for the facilities to make sure that, you know, we're not going to be charging an overheated bus. We'll have emergency stop buttons that allow us to kill the power in those situations quickly. So those are kind of some of the big challenges. I'm going to hand it off to Bill Wolfgang to talk about the vehicle procurement.
Thank you, Scott. Good afternoon. My name is Bill Wolfgang. I'm the Director of Vehicle Engineering. Just over a year ago, the Vehicle Engineering team, made up of Deputy Director Benny Bomadou, they're with me today, Benny Bomadou, Jonathan Tu, Senior Project Manager, and John Pellegrino, Technical Project Manager, along with Jacobs, and coordinated efforts with our Procurement and Logistics Department, headed by Jeff Cook, Ray Wise, and Joe Flynn. We developed our technical specification and RFP, request for proposal, and submitted to the industry. With this contract, we're envisioning that this will be approved for a contract with New Flyer for 80 buses. The original base order for 48 buses, along with 32 buses as option 2A. These will be 10 buses. I'll get into it in the next slide. So our change our contract is reflecting the changes that Scott had discussed earlier. We're going to align our vehicle deliveries with the opening of Quincy and North Cambridge. To initiate that push, the contract, we're going to have New Flyer deliver 10 buses in 2024. This will allow us to stage our maintenance departments, our bus operators, and train them with the appropriate manner to make sure that they're efficient with the vehicles. They can maintain them and they can operate them easily. It's part of the workforce development that is included with the grant that we were awarded. So in 2024, we will deliver 10 buses. In 2025, we'll deliver the 32 buses that are envisioned for, the 27 buses that are envisioned for North Cambridge, which would be added to the 5, part of the 10 that were delivered prior. And in 2026, we will deliver the remaining 43 buses. As part of our safety, as part of the development of the technical specification, our team studied battery and other industry trends, identifying the requirements for heightened levels of focus. One of the areas of concern was energy storage monitoring and early fault detection. Traditionally, bus manufacturers have monitoring systems that measure battery voltage, amperage, and temperature. We have included in our specification an additional layer of protection measuring outgassing of the cell at the cell level. This will give us that early warning detection so we can take immediate actions with notification from the vehicle to the appropriate resources through our charge management system like Scott had mentioned earlier. With the detection of the buses will communicate battery faults to the facility's charge management system and will stop the buses from charging and send out immediate notification of any issues. Also during specification development, we did route profiling. Route profiling allowed us to establish the range of these vehicles. And we're proud to say that we can meet the range of our requirements without any operational changes with the battery size that we've selected. The new battery electric buses will be similar to our previous fleets that we've delivered. You can see in the photograph now that this is a pretty standard bus for us. We worked with all of our internal stakeholders and external stakeholders to develop the aisle width, the passageway of passengers, both utilizing mobility devices, baby carriages, and other people. The new battery electric bus fleet will be similar in appearance. Excuse me. The 32 battery buses with the 32 buses envisioned to go to North Cambridge will also incorporate a left-hand door. So in order to operate through the Harvard Tunnel, they will incorporate this door. We've also included in that doorway an additional wheelchair ramp. Stakeholders and public feedback were incorporated to ensure that the new buses meet or exceed the ADA requirements. The buses will also include onboard geofencing, and this is to manage the control of the auxiliary heater system, which is a diesel-fired heater. Also included with that is a emissions monitoring system that will monitor the emissions of that heater. Below it, this is the cost of the 80 buses broken down, the 5 buses that are envisioned of each vehicle type, along with the 43 and 27 that are envisioned to be delivered throughout the 3 years of delivery, for a total cost of $119,087,982. Here's the good news. So since the bipartisan infrastructure law has been passed, the MBTA has received $252 million of grant funding. A lot of that is due to Jillian. I don't see her here, but Jillian has been critical in getting that money. 116 million of that has been, it's discretionary grant funds for the low-no projects, and will support this particular project. Vehicle engineering requests the board of directors to authorize the general manager and CEO or his designee to award and execute formal contract 1F22 to New Flyer of America to manufacture, furnish, and deliver 48 low-floor, 40-foot battery electric buses. It is recommended that the procurement include options 2A, which is a 32 additional electric buses with street-side boarding. Option 10, provisions for Mobileye Advanced Driver Enhancement System, or Assistance System. Option 11, provisions for a dual-sided LCD passenger information screen, and provisions for geofencing, capital spares, training aids, operators driver simulator, special tools, publications, and communications for a total delivered amount not to exceed $119,087,982. I'm here to take questions if you
So I have a question. So in the transit industry, assuming that we go forward with this, are we leaders, middle of the pack, followers?
We're in the middle. We're in the middle. There's a lot of transit authorities that are really starting to put their specifications out, and we're not on the bleeding edge of technology, but we're not in the middle. We're not in the end.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Thanks for the presentation. Question on the technology changes.
Yeah.
How does this procurement play into that? I mean, there was a story recently about Toyota coming out with solid-state batteries, and I know it's evolving. So as we're making this procurement and we procure these, how is our team looking at the technology changes? And there's a lot, we're talking about, identifying the heat and all of the things, particularly with the facilities being made as well as the buses. So how is that play into all of the work that's gone on to put this?
That's a great question. That's a great question. That's why this is for only 80 buses to initiate. If we advance our facilities designs and get them in place, we have the option to either exercise additional options, which is there's 380 additional options on this contract for a total of 460 buses, or we develop a an additional specification go out to solicit for additional buses that have the advancements in technology. There are also other ways that we can exercise change orders within this contract if we do see the advancements of technology. And you're right, solid-state batteries are coming. They're not here yet within the bus industry, along with some other things that aren't here yet. You know, people had mentioned heat pumps. There's no manufacturer that's using heat pumps in buses at this point in time. So diesel-fired heaters are really the only way that we can sustain our operation in the wintertime.
Well, and I think that was the point of my question, the flexibility to address the technology.
Yep.
Continues to evolve,
Yep.
sometimes more quickly than we realize. And I guess to follow up to that, so a lot of systems, and following up on the chairman's question, are already procuring, going in this direction to take these kind of buses and getting them out on the street.
We are, the intention of our specification is to deliver the most safe, reliable, and available bus that we have. We want to make sure that our operators are safe, our passengers are safe, and the community is safe. You know, one of the things that I apologize I didn't mention, it was this crash avoidance system, this option 10, Mobileye. I apologize, I didn't mention this. This is a crash avoidance system that is going to be looking for pedestrians. It's kind of like an envelope around the vehicle looking for pedestrians, bicyclists, and cars in front of the vehicle. So if traffic is starting to slow in front of you, the operator will get an alarm, and they'll get a light to signal that, hey, you've got somebody on your blind spot or on your side. Keep an eye on your mirrors. And this is it's kind of technology that was taken from automobiles, those yellow lights that are in everybody's mirrors now. It's a play on that. So we keep the operator's eyes on the mirrors, and we notify them if things are getting too close with an audible alarm. So that's another form of technology that we've incorporated.
So
Apologize
directors,
for not including that.
Director Smart texted us a question, because I guess the technology is not working perfectly. So she wanted to know if any women-owned businesses were part of this bidding process.
So New Flyer and all bus manufacturers or all vehicle manufacturers form their disadvantaged business enterprise goals directly with the federal government. They're called TVMs, transit vehicle manufacturers. And they go directly to the federal government and set their goals with them. And that's on their whole year's duration of manufacturing for their entire product line. Right now, the current DB goal for 2023 is 3.6% for New Flyer.
3.6.
Yeah, which is right in the middle of the industry standard. You know, you've got Gillig, Proterra, and BYD a little bit lower, and you got Nova Bus a little bit higher, but Nova Bus is.
So there's a federal requirement which they're
This
addressing.
is a federal requirement, correct.
And it's presumably goes up every year.
Correct.
This 3.6 doesn't sound like a lot.
It's negotiated directly with the federal
I
government.
see. Okay.
And we validate, you know, we obviously make sure that we validate that they're meeting their goals.
So I think we're ready to call a question, unless there are any other issues.
I actually have a request, Chairman Glenn.
Yeah, sure.
Would someone be able to follow up with me at another point in time? But I'd like to see some quantifiable data with respect to the overall lowered emissions and the environmental impact on the specific communities that these buses will be implemented at first, and then system-wide as more and more buses come online. Then I'd also like to see some quantifiable data in regards to safety matters. I would think it's safe to assume that we should have a reduction in safety-related issues, given that these buses will be brand new. But I'd like to see a breakdown with safety related to internally, in reference to the operation of the buses, the maintenance of the buses, the overall impact on safety for our employees working with the buses, and then the safety impacts on the ridership throughout the system in the specific locations. And then I'd also like to see some quantifiable data on, again, with the buses being new, how is that going to impact the consistency of the bus routes overall on ridership?
We will take those questions and provide you with additional feedback at a later date.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Noah, do you want to call the roll?
I believe we need a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Chair Glenn,
Yes.
Director Fiandaca,
Yes.
Director Goodwine,
Yes.
Director Koch,
Yes.
Director McGee,
Yes.
Director Smart.
Yes.
Okay, so why don't we try to take the next two on this list? So Erin Maniscalco. Going once, going.